Hello and welcome to Crafting with Michelle. I'm Michelle Pethley and I have an Etsy shop called Shelley's Wreaths and More, and this is probably where you'll find this wreath listed as soon as I'm finished with it. I have had a great opportunity to work with TrendyTree to bring you some tutorials on their subscription box. They have a subscription box that comes out monthly, and it always has everything you need to make a wreath. And in this kit, you can see this is what came with it. They give you the mesh. In this kit, we had 2 rolls of this black mesh. It's a Deco Poly mesh. Then we have this wreath frame and 3 types of ribbon. This beautiful ribbon, very colorful. A black one, as well as this sugar-coated ribbon. We're going to make a Halloween wreath today. And the star of the show, I should tell you, is the sign. Trick or treat. And it has all the colors of the ribbons in it. Now, before we start, I do want to tell you that you always get a coupon code at the end of your list that is included in the box. Make sure you use it. TrendyTree has a lot of wonderful products and things that can be added to this wreath to accent it and make it more personal. Let's get started now. I've already cut my ribbons and my mesh, trying to save time, a little bit of time. But what I also like to do with my mesh is include 10-inch poofs on the top. This was taught, I actually learned this from another designer, Jordan Matthews. Let's give him the kudos that he deserves, because by putting poofs on the top ring, you're making your wreath fluffier, and all of the items that you add to your wreath will stay on top of the wreath and not sink in. That's the purpose of that. So what I like to do is I start gathering up the mesh. I'm not sure if you can see this. I'm just gathering it up like this. And I'm going to put it on the wreath with a zip tie. This is just something I do personally. Peace of mind, I guess. Just zip it on here. And that is our starting point for the poofs. Now, 10-inch poofs, you can use a measuring tool, which is what I'm going to use to give you your 10-inch poofs. Let me cut off the tail of the zip tie real quick. There we go. Then I drop this to the floor just so that I have this in my hand. Well, let me get, this is the first time I'm working with an overhead view, so I'm trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to open up this tie. It's the closest one to where I started. And I'm just going to put my mesh right in there and kind of twist it. That's just to hold it. That's our starting point. And we're going to finish at that same point. Now, with whether you use your mat or, in my case, I'm using a 10-inch tool, I'm going to put it at the base of that tie, move my hand up. You see I'm grabbing it at 10 inches, opening the next tie, and just putting it in and giving it a short twist. And then I'll open up my poof. And you'll see now that the mesh is staying just below the tine. All right, but it is going to give us a lot of support when we put our other mesh in. So now I'm going to just continue around the base, doing the same thing, measuring 10 inches, opening up the tie, and then fluffing the poof. All right, as I'll continue, I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. so no one gets bored. But let me tell you, this is my first tutorial with TrendyTree, and I'm a little bit nervous working on this, but I will tell you, I have two granddaughters. One is going to be 8 and one is 4, and they both assured me that I should be able to do this since we've practiced vlogging together. It's amazing what little kids can do, can catch on to. Every time we bake or craft together, they insist on pretending to vlog. So I've talked to a lot of imaginary audiences, and they've assured me that I can do this. So with their blessing, I'm rolling through this. Almost done with these poofs. It goes relatively quickly when you have when you get your rhythm down, shall we say. And here's our last one. We're now back at the beginning where we started. And I'm going to open up the tie that was holding that. Just open it up. Don't worry, your mesh won't jump out. It's kind of formed in there. Then just seal it up with a twist. And now you can see the wreath form has all 8, there's 8 on the top, poofs, all 10 inches. Now we're going to cut this tail off. And again, this is what I do. You can just tuck it into one of the poofs, but I like to, for security reasons, I sell my wreaths at craft shows, so there's a lot of transporting. And then, of course, if I ship them, I want to make sure that the product stays exactly how I designed it. So that's why I do these little extras. Nobody, if you don't feel like doing it, you don't have to. This mesh will stay where it's put once you tie it into that tie. But you can see I'm just, there we go. Let's see that. I tied it. Cut it off, and then I just cut off any extra that's on the other side. All right. So that is the start of our wreath. Now, I'm going to open all these ties on the bottom, and I'm going to show you something. I noticed when I was going through this, one of my ties was a little loose. And if you get that, you know, these ties are just kind of stapled on, or not stapled, but they're twisted on with a very thick wire. However, sometimes they get a little loose, and let me show you. This one right here, see how this one has looks like a loose tooth. Okay, so what I do, I always have some zip ties handy. I just take the zip tie and zip tie this one back to the bottom rail, or whatever rail that it's hanging from. These zip ties are amazing. Things you can do with them. But that will secure and hold that tine in place. You can see that it's now just as firm or tight as the other ones. All right, so there we go. All of them are open, and it's time to put in our mesh. Now I've cut my mesh to 30 inches, and the reason I did that is because this mesh is called a value mesh. Nothing wrong with it, it's just a little bit see-through. So if you want to, the object is obviously to hide this frame, so that's why I cut to 30 inches. And also I used then both rolls of this mesh, and I don't have any leftovers. Nothing worse than having 40 rolls of little, 10 feet of mesh that you really can't do much with. So this method helps me use up pretty much both rolls of mesh that are included in the kit. Now, all mesh frays, but what we want to do, of course, is to hide the fray as best we can. And the way I do this is I roll it a little bit. See if you can see what I'm doing here. I'll take this out of the way for a minute. Okay, so we're rolling the edge just a little bit to tuck that cut edge in. Then we're going to, with our thumbs and pointer fingers, we're going to scrunch the mesh. Let me hide it. There we go. We're going to scrunch it together up the middle. This is called a cruffle. We're making a curl and a ruffle on the same. All right, and I just take it, curl this edge in to meet, and there we have it, a cruffle. Okay, now how I do this is I just take it in my dominant hand so that the curls and ruffles bend down, and then open up the tie, put it in the middle of that, press down and twist. And now you have a cruffle. On your first time. Now you can see, even in the camera, you can almost still see the frame. But I guarantee you when we put all the mesh on and it kind of compacts, it'll all be hidden. Okay, so now I'm going to try to quickly do this 17 more times so you don't get bored. I will tell you there, if you can't, here's another way to do this cruffle. Okay, how about if we take and curl the first side like that. You can take a clip, a clothespin, anything that will hold it for you, and then do the other end like this. Cruffle it again, or roll it, and then again with your two fingers, bring it together. That will achieve the same cruffle. Now I turn it upside down. Now I turn mine upside down because I find that my ribbon tails somehow look better. I don't know if it's that method or what, but could all be in my head, but I like to do it that way. All right, put them next to each other, kind of fluff it up. You'll see that they'll lay right next to each other. I'm going to continue around, and I will come back to you when I've got the whole bottom row done. Okay, I'm back, and you can see that I've put a ruffle or a cruffle in each of the ties on the bottom. Now we're going to put the remaining 8 cruffles on the top, and I'm trying to show you again how to do this in case you're not sure. We're going to take and lay out the mesh. As it gets towards the bottom of the roll, you'll see it's curlier. It's easier to make these curls, but I'm going to line it up, scrunch it in the middle, and just go right up the middle of the mesh until we get to the other side. Now, just to remind you, try to stay in the middle of the mesh so that it doesn't go too wonky on you, but it's not a problem if it slightly does. But at least this way, you can see that both ends are approximately the same. There's nothing sticking out, okay? Now what I like to do is I open up my tie that's holding in the poof. Again, don't worry, your mesh isn't going to jump out. I push this one down, again, get it as close to the bottom as you can, and tighten it up, and there you have it. And just twist it around a little bit, lay it, and you'll see sometimes you'll get these strings, just pull them out, no problems there. And we'll just continue. We have 7 of these to make. And then you'll see just how full this wreath becomes when we get all of the poofs all of the cruffles on top of the poof. Just roll it up the middle, scrunch, scrunch. When you get towards the end, just take the middle of that mesh, you see this, and just kind of churn it on top of itself. It'll make the curl for you. It'll start curling in on itself. Gather it up, then go back, open up the next tie, push this one down again, and grab the two ties, twist them, and there you go. And I don't know if you can see it, but I do want to show you that this suddenly looks a lot fuller, darker, and you don't see the wreath frame at all on this side. You can still see it a little bit here, but it'll all disappear as we finish up with these cruffles. Okay, just keep going up the middle. And I apologize, my gray mat and black mesh do not have enough contrast to show you what I'm really doing. Again, take the end, curl it down on top of itself. It'll make the curl for you. Put it together. Okay, let's go to our next tie. If you're opening it up, just open it up, push it down, and just together. Okay. All right, I just position the wreath, get my next tie open. Grab a few more pieces of mesh here. Okay. See, that's why I did the bottom off camera, because you'll probably get bored to death watching me do this. There are some phases of wreath making that bore me. This is one of them, but unfortunately it has to be done. And there are a lot of techniques, a lot of different folds and rolls that we can use, and I will present those in the next couple of tutorials just to give you some variety. This one, I chose this one again because the mesh was a value mesh, and we just have to know how to work with value mesh, and it will do exactly what we need it to do. All right, we just have a few more. I'm starting at the end, a little off camera. My hands will come into there it is. Now just scrunch down the middle. Sometimes if you're having trouble going down the middle, if you lay it on a mat like this with a line, just follow that line down the middle. Okay. And with your mesh pinned at the other end. Okay, now turn it in on itself. If your mesh is pinned at the other end, that line will be nice and straight for you. And if it, in this case, you can see I got a little wonky here, I just pull, make it disappear. Tuck it in, there we go. Regrip it so I can get it in. I'm going to open my ties. Now, again, I open my ties so that everything is down into the wreath as opposed to floating on top. However, if you don't want to open up your ties, you don't have to. Just put the cruffle as deeply into the V as you can, and then tie it again. Your wreath will still turn out beautiful, no matter what method you use. And I think I probably started opening them up after I've been doing this about a year, and I realized that I could push it down a little bit easier. You'll get your own rhythm to how you prepare your wreaths. A little bit about me. I started my first floral arranging class I took in college. My senior year of college, I was sitting for the CPA exam, which is the 3-day exam that you have to take to get your license. And my last semester of college had a lot of heavy courses to prepare you for this exam. So what I decided to do was take the heavy courses, of course, but fill in with some lighter, more enjoyable courses. And one of them was floral arranging. And I really got the bug then from this course in school. I never really followed up on it until maybe 15 years later. We relocated from my husband's job, and we ended up in a little town called Eureka in St. Louis, just outside of St. Louis. And there I opened up a gift shop, a floral and gift shop, and had a chance to do wreaths again. Now, we were using silks back then, and I'll tell you, the florals have come a long way. So much more variety, so much better quality. But anyway, I got to make wreaths again back in that period of time. But as luck would have it, we relocated again. So I sold my share of the shop and started a catering business when I got to my new location. Catering or cooking is another of my passions. However, when I started doing wreaths with COVID, I was looking for something to do after I'd cleaned every closet and cabinet in my house. I just started looking on YouTube and found some wreath makers, and before I knew it, I was hooked. There was no turning back. It's something I absolutely love to do. But, you know, I'd given as many wreaths away as I could, and I had to find something to do with them because they were taking over my house. I'm sure my husband could attest to that. Okay, we are completely done. See how full that is? It really looks great. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to prep the sign that's going to go on this wreath, and then I'm going to let it dry while we put on our ribbon tails. Okay, now the sign is a very lightweight foam sign in this kit, as you can see. Let's clean off these. Keep my area clean. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this ribbon. Kind of has no way to go, no purpose in our wreath anyway, and it will just blend in with the black. So losing it's not a problem. I'm going to turn it over, and these are called cable mounts. Okay, and I'm going to use these cable mounts. I'm going to put one on each side. Unfortunately, they're black on black. All right, now what I like to do is I take a little of this Gorilla Glue. It's a super glue. Just a dab will do you. Just put a dab. I mean, really, you can just a little bit. It almost seems useless. It's so little, but believe me, this stuff holds. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, if it's, nah, you can't even really see it, but then peel back this adhesive on these cable mounts and just carefully stick it right over that little tiny dot of Gorilla Glue. All right. Now, I've just confessed to being a CPA, so you know I'm going to use all the caution I can. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue along the edge. I hope you can see this. And I'm just outlining the black part of the cable mount with glue. And what this does is the hot glue will hold the foam of the cable mount, the plastic of the cable mount together. It dries faster than the Gorilla Glue. So you can work with the sign, even though the Gorilla Glue hasn't completely set, because the hot glue, as it dries, will hold it in place for you. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, let it cool off, and start on our ribbon tails. Now I cut 13-inch ribbon tails. I found with experimenting that that's kind of the perfect size ribbon tail that comes out of the wreath, and doesn't get in the way of many things. Let me show you quickly how I cut them. I just take 13 inches. I'm not sure if you can see this. I'll start it up here. Okay, there we go. 8 to 13 is 21. Okay, so I've got a 13-inch piece of ribbon. All right, and to make these ends look better, I take them, fold them in half. Can you see the half? Okay, and here's the folded edge. If you cut from the folded edge to the point, you'll see that you get two doved tails. Okay, now I cut all my ribbon tails ahead of time, again, so that we could keep the process going. And I like to pair my ribbon tails together. This is the ribbon, these are the two 2.5-inch ribbons that we got with the kit. And so typically I'll take and add a 1.5-inch ribbon. This again is one that we got from the kit. All right, so I made a set of tails out of these two ribbons, and I needed a ribbon to match the theme of the wreath. So I went to my stash, and I think every crafter has some kind of a stash. If not, definitely work towards one. And if you do, shop at TrendyTree. I'm telling you, TrendyTree has some of the most incredible products. Customer service is wonderful. If you have any questions whatsoever, they are so responsive. And they run a lot of promotions or sales. And they're just a great company to get your supplies from. All right, now, I showed you the 3 ribbons that came with the kit, but I wanted to add my own to make this ribbon packet. So this is the ribbon that I'm adding from my own stash to make this ribbon here. All right, so to start out, what you do is you line up your 2 ribbons, the 1.5 and 2.5. You do not have to, you can use 2 1.5s. You can use anything you want. This is just what was given to us in the kit. So I folded them in half to find the center. Then I'm going to scrunch it up, right up the center. Okay, you see you have this? Now, if you punch out this little dimple from the bottom up to the top, so that your ribbon, can you see that? It's kind of arched, okay? If you do that on both sides, well, it looks like a mini McDonald's arches, all right? Now, we're going to take it back to our wreath. Start anywhere you want, top or bottom. I always start on the bottom. Again, I'm going to unravel or untie that tie, push it in, twist it back up, and then spread my tails. Okay, I'm going to turn this around so you can see it. These colors are so vibrant, and they're going to stand out on this black mesh. It's going to be beautiful. But do you see how they're tied in? I spread them, and because I put that dimple a little bit, the tails will curl out, kind of curl out of the wreath. Okay. Now I'm going to alternate that ribbon tail packet with this tail packet. I'm going to do the same thing. They're folded in the middle. I'm going to crease it right up the middle. Punch out the dimples. Okay, now do the same. If you open up your ties, push it into the middle of that tie, and then just close it up. And believe me, that's the last couple of times you'll have to use those ties. Now, hoping you can see this, I'm spreading this. Again. This little witch's hat fabric in the ribbon is a little bit flimsy, so you'll have to work with it a little bit. That's why I paired it up with this stiffer black ribbon to give it some stability, but there you have it. So that's the combination of the two tail ties. We're going to have the striped sugared with the ice blue, and then the witch's hat with the black. And I'm just going to go around the bottom of the wreath and put these tail ties in, ribbon ties. I'm going to tie them all in, and then I'll come right back to you. I'm back. You can see slightly that the ribbon tails are on the bottom. I'm going to just continue on the top, doing the exact same thing. You can see this. Okay. My ribbon tails are folded in half. I found the center. I'm going to scrunch right up the center. Punch out those dimples. Okay. Then I'm going to untie the tie, push it down into the middle, and then tie it back up. I hope you can see that a little bit better now. And then just pull them out and give them that kind of waterfall effect, all right? They'll cross over the other ones, not a problem. It's going to be a great look when it's all done. Okay, so let's continue the pattern. We only have, I'm going to tell you what I normally do. There are 10 ties on the bottom, 8 on the top, which is 18. But I hate to put ribbon tails underneath a wreath, underneath the bow on the wreath. To me, it's just a waste. They get kind of tangled, so I only do 6 on the top. Saved me a little bit of product, as well as a lot of frustration when I'm trying to get the ribbon tails to lay right underneath the bow. So that's the way I cured that problem. I just didn't do it. So again, I'm twisting it. Again, you don't have to untwist if you don't want to. Your bow will look just fine, or your tails will look just fine no matter how you do it. I'm just kind of a creature of habit. Probably the accountant in me, huh? Okay, just have a few more to do. And one thing I want to point out is that this pink sugar striped one has a pink top and a purple top. I always try to make sure that I'm putting the ribbon in the same way so that the pink is on the, I chose the pink on the top. So when I put my ribbon into the tie, I'm going to make sure that the pink is always on top around the wreath. Okay? All right, let's just separate them, curl them on. You can use your hands, like, you know, that curling ribbon that you use at Christmas. Use scissors, in this case, just use your hands. And they'll curl right over the top and kind of give you that waterfall look. All right, just 2 more, and then we can move on to our bow. You'll see then that I'll have this big spot in the middle of my wreath that has no color in it, but that's okay. The bow will eventually go there, and then some of the sign. And I'm going to add a few things that I've got from TrendyTree on my own to kind of fill out this pumpkin, this wreath a little bit more. I have a glittered pumpkin from TrendyTree that I bought, and I think it goes well. And I also have a pink pumpkin I'm going to add in there to fill in the spots, because this is a large wreath and that sign is a little bit smaller. So I thought I'd add a few things just to fill out the wreath. But once you put your bow on and your sign that comes with the kit, you can call it done, because like I said, it'll be a gorgeous wreath. All right, can you see that? Does that give you just the camera a little bit for you? All right, now see that big spot here? That is going to be where our bow goes. Let's work on our bow next. I use a bow maker, And I've gone into my stash and gotten a couple other ribbons to give us a larger bow to fill that spot. This is the bow maker I use. All right, now I'm going to start with a 4-inch ribbon. This doesn't come in your kit. This is from my stash. But you can use anything you want, or you don't have to. You can just make your bow with the ribbons that came in the kit. And that's the beauty of this kit. It is a complete kit. You can finish that wreath completely. Okay, now I've just dovetailed the end. All right, now I'm going to put this in. Now the trick of making a bow, let me get one thing first. I need my pipe cleaner. I'm going to use a pipe cleaner and a zip tie to make my bow. Okay, now I put the pipe cleaner down at the bottom. All right, I build the bow on top, then I'll cinch it, and when I take the bow off, the pipe cleaner will be at the bottom of the bow. It'll go through the mesh, and you won't even see it. That's why I'm comfortable using an orange pipe cleaner. You're not going to see it at all. All right, so you can see this is 8 inches. I'm going to start kind of with maybe a 10-inch tail. Okay, this is the bottom tail. All right, so you can take your wreath, and this is not a good sample, but this ribbon has the front and back kind of look the same. Other ribbons don't. So normally a ribbon has a good side and a bad side. All right, so the object of this is to twist the ribbon so that the good side's always showing. Okay, so I'm going to put the good side in, and I'm going to twist so that the good side is on top. Now, twisting has put the bad side here on this, and we're going to then make a bow about 7 inches big. And now you'll see that the top of the bow is actually the good side. And we've been able to make a loop with just the good side. Now we've twisted it again, and I'll go into better explanation of the twisting with a ribbon that you can see good side, bad side. Okay, now going back down, making my 7-inch loop. We're only making 2 loops. So on the last loop, we're not going to twist the tail because we want the good side of the ribbon to be up. So we just kind of compress, if you can imagine, just compress the ribbon in, cut your tail off. Now, I dovetail everything as I go, so I don't have to worry about missing one. All right, and there you have it. Okay, that's the first layer of our bow, and it's all good sides showing. All right, now the next ribbon I'm going to use is the ribbon. I'm going to use the witch hat ribbon. All right, now we're going to make an X. From now on, all of our loops and tails are going to make an X. And we're going to start, we put the first tail in down at the bottom. The next ribbon, we're going to put the first tail on the top. And again, we have a good side and a bad side to this ribbon. So we're going to twist the ribbon, push it down, and the good side now will be here up at the top in this tail. And the bad side is here. We're going to bring it over, slip it in again, determine what length we want. And I just make a bow. I never really kind of measure after I get the first loops down. I just visually know that this one has to be just a titch smaller than the one before it. So now I'm going to take my left hand. This is my left hand with my watch. I'm going to twist that towards me. And I'm going to take my right hand and twist that backwards. So twisting towards and back at the same time, push down. Now we have a good loop here. The bad side of the ribbon is over here. We're going to do the same process. We're going to measure out the size that we want. this one we don't need to twist because it's the last loop we're making. We just need a tail. So we're just going to push and compress the ribbon down. Okay, and then pull out the length tail we want, cut it off, and dovetail. All right. I build my ribbons, my bows, pretty much from largest width ribbon to the shortest. That's just how I do it. That's not the right or wrong. That's just how I do it. So you can do whatever you want. Now I'm going to use this ribbon, our candied striped ribbon. We're going to start with the tail down here. So we're just alternating behind, starting up here and down here, okay? We just finished that one up here. We're going to start down here. We're going to dovetail this one. Okay, now we'll definitely be able to see right side, wrong side. And maybe that's a better thing. Not the bad side of the ribbon. It's just the wrong side of the ribbon. We're going to start. We're going to put it in. Okay. My right hand is going to twist forward. My left hand is going to twist back. Okay. Bring it down. Now the wrong side is up. We're going to come into the middle again. Twist. And this time my left hand is twisting forward. My right hand is twisting back. Okay, and we've brought that up. Now we're going to take and bring the ribbon back in. All good. And this is the last loop, so we're just going to compress the ribbon down. No twisting is needed on that last one. Cut our tail off. Dovetail. And there you go. Okay. Now, let's move on to our next ribbon. Our next ribbon is going to be from my stash. And the reason I'm pulling this ribbon in is because I am going to add a velvet pumpkin to it, and this to the wreath completely. And this ribbon is a perfect match for that velvet pumpkin. And so it has some it'll tie into the rest of the wreath. Okay, now I'm going to dovetail. I folded it over, go from the folded side upward to the point, and create a dovetail. Okay, now it's time to start up here on the top. We're going to put it in, put the ribbon in. Let me get some slack on it. Woo. And put it in, and my right hand's twisting towards me. My left hand is twisting away. Push down, and there you have it. Now this velvet, you'll be able to definitely see the right side and wrong side. I'm going to push it in, make the loop the size that we want, just a little bit smaller than the one before it. My left hand, I'm sorry, is going to come towards me. My right is going away. And there we have that loop. Our next loop is coming down this way. Just a little bit smaller than that one. Just compress the ribbon this time because we don't need to twist it. We're not making another loop. Dovetail it, and we're done with that. Now, hope you can see what I'm trying to do here is my big ribbon starts in the middle, and then I'm making X's with the other ribbons. Okay? And it'll help when we fluff our bow if it's all staggered like that. Okay, let's move on to another ribbon. I'm going to put the black ribbon in that came with the kit. I'm going to put that in the middle of the bow. You can do whatever you want. And that's the beauty of this, of making wreaths. You can make it your own by doing whatever you want. Okay, I'm going to dovetail. Cut from the folded side to the outside. Makes a perfect V. Okay. We're going to start down here with the tail. All right. Right hand towards me. Left hand with the watch away from me. Twist and push down. Bring the loop in. Okay. Now in this case, right hand away from me, left hand towards me, push down. I hope you're understanding how that twisting works. No longer need to twist because this is our last loop, so we're just compressing the ribbon down into the middle, cutting our end, and dovetailing. Just a few more ribbons to go and this bow will be done. Okay. Now I'm going to bring back the blue ribbon that I had substituted. Okay. And we're going to start up here at the top. Let's dovetail, fold, cut. Now, right hand towards me, the watch hand away from me, push down. Make your loop. Okay, watch hand towards me, right hand away, push down. Last loop. Does not need to be twisted, just compressed. And let's cut our tail. All right. How do you like that bow so far? I'm going to bring in one more ribbon, my final ribbon. I have a sparkle pink that kind of ties into the sparkle in the middle and then the sparkle in the black. I'm going to dovetail this. Okay, start from the bottom because we started from the top on the blue. Okay, left hand, the watch hand is going away from me. Right hand is coming towards me, press down. Let's make our loop. Okay, left hand going away. The watch hand is going away. Right hand, I'm sorry, the watch hand is coming towards me. Yes, and the right hand is going away. Push down. This last one, we do not need to twist. We're just compressing that ribbon. Cutting off. Dovetailing it. And we're done with our bow. Almost. We still have to get it off this. And this is how I do mine. Okay. Remember that pipe cleaner I started with? It's way down at the bottom. This is a large zip tie. And you'll see that it has a knob. Okay. You want to make sure that the flat end of the zip tie is pointing up. All right. With that pointing up. Oops, do you see that? This is the flat edge pointing up to the ceiling. I'm going to go underneath, slide it underneath the pipe cleaner, and wiggle it to the middle of the bow. Okay, do you see how I've brought it up? Okay, to the middle of the bow where those X's are crossing. Now, I just take and put a little bit of tension on it. You heard it zip? Okay, now I'm going to lift up with it, but I'm not going to take the bow off yet. I'm going to put this zip tie through the 2 points, and now technically the zip tie is right down the middle of the bow. And I'm going to move that zip tie towards the back of the bow. Just keep ratcheting it up, compressing the bow. I'm doing this all to make the bow maker do the work and not your hand, okay? That's what I'm trying to avoid in my case. Now, you can see, hopefully, let's see if I can show you this. Move the bow maker out of the way. Okay, see how the zip tie is going down the middle of all those crunches where all those twists are, all right? We've had to do very little work. We've let the bow maker do the work. Now we're just gonna finish it off by cinching this as tight as we can. Okay, let's cut off this zip tie. And there we have it. There is our bow. It's a little funky. You can see the two pipe cleaners, the two ends of the pipe cleaner, they're going to go feed down through. We won't even see them. Okay, now to fluff the bow, all I do is pretty much take one side. I'm going to be working on the side away from the camera. Okay, you see that? All right. I'm just going to hold my loop and pull the tail. I know this tail goes up, so I just kind of pull it up. And then this tail and this loop, kind of just separate them a little bit, okay? You don't have to tug too hard, but all we're doing is just kind of getting them out of that center trough. Okay, now the next one was that velvet purple one, purpley pink. The next is the black one. I'll move those. The last two are the blue, and then the pink. So we have our bows, we have our tails and hoops or loops in every spot that we want. And we just go through and puff them up a little bit, give them some air. Okay, let's do the same on the other side. I'm flipping it around. You can see I'm going to hold the loop of the big bow, of the big ribbon. It's a 4-inch ribbon. I'm going to hold that down and just pull the tail down to my left. Okay, now we do the same. Tail with the witch's hat and the loop. We're going to pull them and separate them a little bit. Doing that again with the stripe, the tail, and the sugared stripe. Then we're going to work on the velvet, the black, the blue, and finally the pink. Okay? We have them where we want them. Now just give them air. Fill them with air, okay? Make them puffy. This witch's hat is down here. And you can see that some of the loops are a little bit different sizes. It still looks like a beautiful bow, no matter what. All right. So there we have our bow. Now, I'll probably, once I put it in the wreath, I'm going to adjust the tails, cut them down to how they fit best, all right? But right now, you kind of see that each loop is across from each other. This loop for the hat is here. The loop for the stripes are here. They're across diagonally. Black is here, pink is here. Okay, and that's how the bow is made. All right, let's put it in the wreath and put all of the attachments that I have in. Get the bows and ribbons off. Now comes the time where you have to decide really the design of your wreath. All right? How do you want the elements of your wreath to lay in there? Here's our wreath. We know, because of the way I did this, that the bow is going to fill in this black spot. That's where my bow is going to go. Bring this up. There we go. Okay. So, here is our sign. I'm going to put 2 pipe cleaners on that sign. Okay, this is all dry. Now just fish our pipe cleaner through, bend it in half, and twist it. This sign is as light as a feather. Okay. And there we go. Now you see if it sits in the middle, it has a lot of space around it that's dark. All right, so what I'm going to do is I know for a fact that I'm going to put my bow, let's see. The way I thought I was going to do this is I'm going to put my bow at the top. I'm going to call that 10 and 11 o'clock. I'm going to put the bow. I moved the black spot up there. All right. Then I have these 2 pumpkins. You see this pumpkin? All right. I'm thinking of pushing this pumpkin into the middle of the wreath. Apologize for the crinkle of this. Now TrendyTree sells flocked pumpkins, which unfortunately I didn't have one in stock. I was hoping for a paint flocked pumpkin. I thought that would look really, really cool. But I personally didn't have one in stock, so I'm using this velvet one, which matches that ribbon. So I'm going to try to get my pumpkins kind of at an angle on top of each other. Fill in with my sign. Okay. And then put the bow up at the top. Looks really crowded, doesn't it? Let me attach these wreaths, attachments, and I'll get right back to you. Okay. After much struggling, I finally got it to look how I wanted it to look. You can see that the bow, remember that black spot that was up here at the top? Let's see if I can move this camera for us. It's a little bit better. Okay, so the black spot that was up here at the top is where I put the bow. And then I put the sign adjacent to that over there, nestled in between the two pumpkins. Now this is a black glitter pumpkin from TrendyTree. And this pink one is, like I said, I was trying to look for the flocked one from TrendyTree, but I couldn't find it. So that's pretty much what our wreath will look like. Now, the last thing I have to do is I want to glue in these little, I'm not sure what they're called, squiggles. They're very glittered. And I do believe I got those from TrendyTree as well, although I am not 100% sure. But I will tell you this, if you can't find these exact ones, TrendyTree will have something very close to it. I did see on their website that they had pampas grass in pink, which would be very pretty and would give you the same effect if that's what you're interested in. And again, I'm just gluing these in. Splotch of hot glue on there. And then I will call it a day with you. I appreciate you spending the time with me, and I hope that this has given you some ideas on what to do with your subscription box that you receive from TrendyTree. And if you don't get a subscription box, definitely look into it. It's really a nice way to get a start or a completion on a complete wreath. I tend to add a lot of stuff to my wreaths, but TrendyTree's subscription box gives me a fantastic starting point. They always pick out items that are trending and something that very easily coordinates with everything. And there you go. All glued in. Again, thank you very much for spending the time with me. I'll lift up the camera so you can hopefully see it better. I'll have to tell my granddaughters that I did complete it. And you can see the pumpkins are just slightly off kilter a little bit, but it fills in the whole wreath where the sign wouldn't have really completed it. Again, thank you very much.